Hey, this is Mira Beck, the founder of Overnight Success Publishing and host of Overnight Success TV, and welcome to another awesome episode of Overnight Success TV. Today, I have in the studio my longtime friend, the speaker, coach extraordinaire, founder of Speak and Empire, Dave VanHoose. Dave, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you very much,
yeah,
man. I'm honored and excited to be here. It's amazing our journey, right?
Oh my God. So I met Dave when he couldn't even form a sentence in front of a teleprompter. I'll give him that prop. He was a good speaker already, but we had some fun time in the studio, and went from doing that to multi-million-dollar business, Inc. 500, teaching thousands of people really how to speak and sell from the stage. So really awesome journey, and it's been almost 10 years, I think, or maybe over 10 years since we've known each other. So thanks for taking the time and come up here, man, and share your story and inspire the viewers.
Yeah.
On the other side. So why don't we start with your story? Like, I know your story, it's awesome and it's very inspiring. So why don't you share with me and with us really, how did your beginning, how did you get to speak in, the speaking business and business in general?
You know, it's amazing when I look at my journey, and it's like when I look back how I connect the dots of where I evolved. And sometimes in life you just don't know where you're going to end up. I never would have thought I would be right here, right now, talking to you on this amazing show, talking about speaking and talking about entrepreneurship. For me, Mir, you know, I grew up in Michigan, had challenges like some people. You know, parents got divorced. I got held back from 3rd grade to 2nd grade. And
your parents were like your dad was like a factory worker, stuff like that. You didn't grow up in a family of entrepreneurs and business owners, right?
No, my grandfather worked 42 years with Henry Ford on the assembly line.
Oh, wow.
My dad worked 38 years. So back then in my town, it was, you know, if you were lucky, go to college and get a job working at the factory. And so I barely made it through high school. I had a 1.2 grade point average. In fact, the school called my mom and I told her, your son's not going to graduate from high school. Long story short, I kind of got my stuff together and I made it through high school, went to college, got my degree in sports medicine, which then I found my passion and my purpose. And then moved down to Florida here and started working as a therapist, you know, working with people and helping people overcome injuries.
That's cool.
And what's interesting is I'm helping other people overcome injuries, and then I get injured. And unfortunately, that's when I had my serious back problem and I had to get surgery. And that's when my life was devastated.
Now, before that, you were actually coaching a sports team, right? And you have like giant ring on your finger at one point. Yeah, I remember that. So you were very successful in that as well, right? And, and then, so you got your injury. Tell me more about that, because I know that you went down like really bad. So
you know, I think one of the things that, you know, if you're listening to this right now, it's that what humans do is we put our ego, our identity of who we are is what we do. And that's a mistake, because that's what I did. I put my identity on. I was a professional football coach, a football trainer, you know, won a world championship. And then when I got hurt and I was basically paralyzed, I couldn't walk again, then I was devastated. The depression, the darkness, the fear of losing all of that was devastating. And so in life we're going to have ups and downs, and so one of the things I've learned is about detachment. It's about surrender. It's about getting rid of expectations. And also, the true you is not what you're doing, it's who you are as an individual soul. But what's interesting is that whole event caused me to do something else.
So talk about what happened. So you went from this coach, and that was kind of a job, right? So you worked for the team, and then you got injured, and then tell me the story about you're walking around the pool and fighting real estate and all that stuff.
You know, if you've ever had a serious injury, so basically what they did is they cut me in the stomach and they put a fusion, a rod in a cage in my spine. It was called a spinal fusion back then. And I woke up basically paralyzed, and I was so scared, Mira. I mean, freaking out. I'm 29 years old. I can't walk. I can't function. I can't even take a shower. Like, what's my life going to be like? When a week earlier, you know, I was the most fit person on planet Earth. So it was devastating. So I leave in the hospital wheelchair. My parents got a hospital bed for me. And I wake up and I look, my parents have a screened-in pool out back.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, man, if I could just walk around that pool one time, I can learn how to walk again.
That's cool.
And that's what I did. I started to walk because I knew I had to move my extremities. So I'm walking around thinking to myself as my mind is racing, what am I going to do? How am I going to survive? How am I going to make money? What am I going to do with my life now that I have to reinvent myself? And it was very fearful. I didn't know what was going to happen. And then I had an idea, maybe I could start a business, right?
Yeah, right.
That was my idea.
So before that idea though, tell me, how did you get from being this broken, laying in the bed probably, you know, I'm sure a little bit of depression and stuff like that.
Not a little bit of depression,
because
a ton of depression.
You could have gone the other way. You could have started drinking, doing drugs, doing something crazy. How did you get your mind to motivate yourself to get up and go around that pool and take the first step? Like, if there is somebody that's really in similar situation, what kind of advice do you give somebody like that to push through and actually not fall through and get depressed and, you know, go to the dark side and actually emerge up? Is it like a lot to do with mind, or is it physical, or how do you do it?
That's a great question. And if I take myself back to that moment and take us all back there, I'm laying there and I thought my life was over with. You know, the identity of who I was an athlete, a football trainer, a world champion, and now I'm basically looking at how am I going to get up to take a shower, how am I going to use the bathroom. So I was very, very challenged, and not only that, after surgery they put you on all kinds of medications that are, I don't know, today I look back and very costly. But I think to me, I just have this burning desire in me, you know, to improve, to find my purpose and my passion. And so I think
you were driven already to begin with because of the football career and all that stuff that you did.
I think so. What drove me is being an athlete. You know, you learn about winning, and you learn about, you know, when you throw an interception, get back in there and do it again. So you learn that skill set playing sports, and so I took that life, because life is a game, and so that's the beautiful thing. If you can imagine, life is a game. You're gonna get tackled. You're gonna get hurt. You're gonna score some touchdowns or some baskets. You're gonna have ups and downs, and so you got to have a short-term memory. And that's what makes a successful athlete, being a professional athlete, is
so
doing that.
That's a really good point. So really the short-term memory refers to kind of, if something bad happens, whatever, put it back behind you and focus on the
a great
next,
athlete, you know, great quarterback might throw an interception, and then you'll see, you know, rookies or amateurs that they won't be able to recover from that. A great one will come back and sit in the pocket and throw it again and overcome that.
Be able to compartmentalize and
you've got to, in business and life, have a short-term memory. You can't hold on to the past. Meaning, you'll know this: the past is history.
That's right.
The future is a mystery. The now is the present, the gift. So one of the biggest things I've learned is to just be in the now, be right here, right there. Because the past is depression, the future is fear and anxiety, but in the now is the power that you need to fulfill your life.
That's really cool.
So
I love that, and you know, I've learned in my life, and maybe, you know, hopefully that's gonna be useful for you guys too. Is, you know, don't live in the past, and be if you risk anything, and as an entrepreneur you have to take risks. And whether it's, you know, big or small, whatever, you gotta take a risk to be able to get a reward, right? So when you're taking a risk, and that's how I've been doing it, be okay to live with the consequences. Like, you gotta go into things. If it doesn't work out, great. It's been a learning experience. Let's move on to the next thing, right? But if you're gonna fail and then go get all depressed and give up and whatever, like, don't even go into it.
So good lesson learned. There's never failure. There's just feedback.
That's right.
Right.
That's awesome.
So in sports, you know, you never fail, you learn. And so in the most successful entrepreneurs are the ones that failed the most. Be okay with failing as long as you understand that it's feedback to improve, to get better. And
I have a nice little saying that I you know, use a lot, that every failure is just a deposit to your success account. So once you make enough deposits, you know, then you can make withdrawals and become successful and all that. So so I love that. So You went around the pool. You finally got up. Tell me about your first real estate deal and how did you stumble across real estate going from the sports world?
Well, what's interesting in life, sometimes life sets us up for what our learning lessons are. My learning lesson was I had to first, number one, learn how to walk again and function. So me being a therapist, working with other athletes, I knew I had to start walking. So I kept walking for not for 30 minutes, for hours and hours and hours to try to get my function again. And I'm just thinking to myself, I can't go back to sports medicine, can't go back to football because I'm, you know, the surgery, I'm too fragile now. I gotta find something where I can only stand or sit for 20 minutes. So I had to find a job where I can work maybe 20 minutes a week, and that's it. And I thought maybe I gotta start a business where the business runs without me. So I put this full body cast on, I went to the courthouse and I saw a foreclosure auction. And I saw them, and then I had this idea. Like, what if I took these listings and put them onto a website and call it foreclosuresdaily.com?
That's cool.
So it's interesting, when you have these ideas, it just gets downloaded. It came downloaded to me. So I did what some entrepreneurs do. I started my business on my credit card. I didn't have any money, recovering from surgery. I took my Visa card out. I found a company. They made my membership. And I launched my business, which was the best idea in the world.
Of course.
And guess what happened?
Yeah, since I know the story, I'm gonna take the nothing happened, right?
Yeah, I thought if you had a good idea, customers would show up.
That's right, yeah. People, they will come. Sometimes they don't.
So, so then from there, I'm like, how do you get a customer, right? So I use the 6-foot rule, right? So some of them are using the 6-foot rule. Anywhere within 6 feet, they're trying to sell them. And that's how we found out about what we call education-based marketing.
Nice.
And that's when my company really started to take off.
Yeah. So you started a company then, Foreclosures Daily. You grew that pretty substantially, right? What was the kind of the path of that company?
Well, you know, I look back, when I was in it, we went from starting my business on my credit card, and within 3 years, we made Inc. 500, which is extraordinary. The success and the amount of success that fast was amazing.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of learning lessons because when you're growing your business that fast, it's also we were hiring a person every day on our team because we're growing from $1 million to $5 million to 14 million and making the Inc. 500. Then you're get ready to go public. So there's a lot of lessons that I learned in that experience.
I know you have, and I wish we had 2 hours to go over all of them, but so we can segue because that was the business where you became the speaker, coach, and guy that mastered speaking with your 3,000 presentations that you've given and all that, knowing that what color works the best and when you need to take a sip of a water during your presentation. Like all the little details came from doing all those presentations during your Foreclosures Daily time, right?
Well, what happened is we figured out how do you get a customer. So what we started to do was invite people to an education-based seminar or workshop. So we decided this strategy, and we would have outside speakers that would come in and communicate. And we did our first $1 million in a month. But then after we looked at our profit and loss statement, we made zero because we had so many expenses. And that's when we looked and said, hey, we can't have these other speakers coming because it's taking too big of a profit margin. So my partner's like, we need to create our own speaker, right? And they're like, you. I'm like, me? No, I'm not a speaker. Now, what happened to me internally, and this is a big thing about speaking, 99% of speaking is mindset. Just like golf. It's the internal blueprint of who you are, the confidence, your self-image. And so for me back then, I didn't have the confidence and the certainty to get up on a stage and believe that I could present a message of value to people because I didn't value myself. And I went through complete fear because they're like, you're going to be the speaker for our business. And I'm like, not me. Like I didn't even barely make it through high school. And in college, when we had to take public speaking, I took it in the spring when there was only 12 people because everybody was gone back home. And I was terrified to deliver presentations in front of a group. So for me to do that, was another big fear. The first big fear I had was recovering from that surgery. The next big fear was I have to get up on stage and speak, and it was terrifying.
So I want to take a minute on this topic because just like me, similar story. I switched my major 7 times because I didn't want to take public speaking class. It was just, you know, I have 120 credits on a 60 credit degree because I kept switching my major that many times because I was afraid of public speaking. Then I ended up doing it, ended up, you know, starting my own business. And just like I'm guessing, you know, every one of our viewers has the same problem. So you need to be able to speak in public to promote your business, whether it's Chamber of Commerce breakfast that you have to stand up and say your 30-second elevator speech, or whether it's presentations when you try to sell your services to groups and stuff like that. So just about everybody has the same need for public speaking, and almost everybody has the same fear of public speaking, right? So let's give us some good examples or good tips how to overcome that fear.
I will in a moment, but let's talk about the need, because not everybody realizes that they need to be a speaker, right? So, and that could be a story you're telling yourself so that you don't have to do it. So what speaking has done for me is, number one, it's given me instant authority, credibility. It's given me ability to market my business for free. It's a way to get not customers one-to-one, but one-to-many. Grow my brand, grow my profitability, grow my cash flow, and raise our prices because now we're the authority. And it's a consistent way to get your message out to the world. So if you're a business owner and you're not speaking, and I mean speaking on webinars, on shows like this, or on TV, or even at a small workshop, or the Chambers of Commerce, then you're leaving money on the table in your business. For sure. So I ask people this question, you know, who in this room thinks that if you did speaking your business wouldn't increase? Right?
Everybody should raise their hand.
Right? So, so number one is speaking was the key strategy that took my company to Inc. 500. So now, what happened to me is when I first found out I had to speak, I was so nervous. In fact, I'll never forget this story, Amir. My speaking gig was my first speaking gig was the next day. And I was so nervous. I couldn't sleep that night. I get up early. I go to the airport. I fly to South Carolina to speak at this real estate investor club. And my market manager picks me up. Imagine and then picture this. Drives me, and I'm sitting in his car, and we pull up to this building, and it's kind of about 5 o'clock, so it's gray, it's dark. And I'm thinking, my gosh, oh my gosh, my mind is racing. And I never forget, I put my hands like this and I said, please God, let there be a fire, right? No fire. Like, please God, let there be a tornado, a hurricane, something. And
that's funny.
I look up and Dave looks at me and goes, dude, are you gonna be okay? You're pitch white. So long story short, I open that door, walk up to the VFW hall. I open the door and I look, and there's about 300 people there. And I am terrified and my mind is racing. So what's the first thing that I look for?
I'm guessing bathroom.
Yes, right? So that's when you first start speaking, there's something you need to do, because I was in a bath. I was so nervous and my heart was racing, my sweating, that I was throwing up. So imagine that, just to give a presentation, that I was in so much fear that I caused my body to get sick to throw up.
I'm not surprised. I've experienced it. I know other people do. So you get all these, you know, little butterflies, or you just can't even, like, so I totally get it,
So I'm in there, the promoter comes, he goes, are you ready? I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm sitting in the back, and he goes, in a moment, I'm going to introduce Mr. Dave VanHoose from foreclosuresdaily.com. And he came here all the way from Tampa, Florida. Let's give him a warm welcome. So in that moment, and there's going to be moments in your life where you've got to make a decision. These key moments. In sports, I call them the momentum shifts. And I'm sitting back there, and I could do one of two things. I could run up on the stage or run out of the room. What do you think I did?
I'm sure you went on the stage.
I almost decided to run out. I got up on the stage, and it was like wham. I just connected to my heart. I shared my story, and I presented my message. I connected with the audience, and at the end of it, I said, everybody get up right now and go back there and sign up. And they did.
They did. That's awesome.
I was like, whew, right? Because that's the worst thing. If you're speaking to get people to take action, if nobody goes back, then you feel terrified.
Yeah.
So it's funny. They ran back. Guess where I ran?
Back with them?
No, I ran to the bathroom.
You went to the bathroom again.
To hide out. I was so nervous. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that worked.
Oh, that's cool.
So that was basically, long story short, my first presentation. And I hid out for about an hour until everybody left. And then I came out, Mira, and the promoter's like, where have you been? I'm like, how'd we do? He's like, oh my gosh, you broke the record.
Wow.
We made $42,000 from your presentation.
That's cool.
So that's when it hit me in that split second. Man, speaking is the most profitable skill in the world.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided, I'm going to master this. And that's when I decided to speak twice a day, 5 days a week, to figure out how can you master this. There's got to be a system. There's got to be a formula, and that's what I did.
Yeah, and I think that let's just get a couple of key points out, because practice, practice, practice. That's what you decided to do, and you didn't care whether you're gonna be good or not. What you wanted to speak 10 times a week, and you knew if you're gonna speak that many times, you can make tweaks, we can test different things, you can do all that, right? So don't be like, it doesn't have to be perfect to start, right? I mean, you need to just get started and just get going. And then you succeeded on your first one. There may be people that don't. So I would say to those people, if you do a goose egg, if you have zero success on the first one, don't be sad about it, don't be upset about it. Use it as I mean, you can go in lower than zero, right? So if you got your first one where you didn't do anything, it can get, I mean, that was the worst thing that's ever happened to you. Now you can just go up. So even in that experience, it would be a positive experience if you have the mindset set up right.
You know, when I was a professional football coach and trainer, what I learned from professional sports, I took into the speaking business. One of them in professional football, what we do is we do preseason. We play games that are basically meaningless to get reps, to get that system going, the muscling firing, so that you could run the route and catch the ball.
That's right.
So when I started speaking, I had that mindset. Like every time, I'm just testing of what's working.
That's good.
So there is no failure. I'm just trying to figure out what's working.
Yeah.
And that helped me out dramatically.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's I like the preseason. So in other words, would you recommend that if somebody has an opportunity to speak in front of 1,000 people, they would go and maybe speak to a few small groups locally to prep for the big time and not make that the testing ground?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Now, understand this. Speaking, there's a formula, there's a system, there's a process, okay? And so you have to understand that. Like, let's take an example of Steve Jobs, right?
Okay.
Steve Jobs, before he would do a 15-minute presentation, he was a great presenter, a great communicator. He would spend 100 hours practicing, writing to do a 15-minute presentation.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest things is you need to prepare, okay? So if you have, if you're not preparing, and this is a sad thing, when do most people prepare for their presentations?
About 5 minutes before they go on the stage.
Right, the night before, right?
Yeah.
That's the worst thing, because then you're not practiced, you're under pressure, and the biggest day of your life is that presentation, because I'm telling you, I've seen speakers make from $10,000 up to $500,000 in the same talk, but being able to deliver the message better. And that's the key. People have to understand it's, write this down, small hinges swing big doors in the speaking business.
Yeah, I don't know if you know the story from Dan Kennedy, which basically that's how you and I met anyways in that Dan Kennedy world. He was sharing a story when he spoke on Get Motivated stage. He was their money guy, right? So there's always these presidents and other people that get paid to speak.
And I did the same thing. I actually was in the Get Motivated.
You were on that show at some point too. And so he was saying that his magnetic marketing talk, he's done it for years, hundreds of times, and he would still practice it twice a day, even between his speeches. So you would think that a guy that already knows it doesn't have to practice. But the most professional guys that I know, and they keep practicing, even though you know, you may think they're perfect already, but they want to find the next little hinge, like you mentioned, to swing the big door, right? So just don't underestimate the practice part and the scripting part. Like, let's talk about how, you know, you just mentioned that there is a formula to speaking. And I know from, you know, being around you and seeing how you work with clients, you literally create a script that they can study like an actor, right? And then deliver and just work on their performance and body language and all that stuff. So maybe let's talk about a little bit more about the speaking thing. Like, what is the formula, or not the whole formula because we can spend all day on that again, but talk about the actual formula, why it's important to have a formula.
Well, there's a couple key components to speaking that most people probably haven't considered. One, if we can create a triangle, one of the most important keys is your presentation. And to me, the presentation is the PowerPoint slide, writing your presentation in the right sequence, having the right color, having the right offer, creating an irresistible offer. So number one, it's about creating the presentation. Now that's one small component. The next component is delivery. And I want everybody to write this down. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. So delivery comes into body language, tonality, okay? Using language patterns. So all these different techniques you have to master to really get your presentation. Now, one of the things that you know is I teach a class for speakers all around the world, not how to become a presenter or a professor, but how to become a presentainer. And a presentainer is a technology I invented over my whole speaking career to how to communicate and connect with people on an emotional level. And so you have to master delivery. And then the next component is your mindset, your internal belief. So these three important components are very important. But let's dive down to how do you build a presentation. Now, what we do at Speaking Empire, obviously you know, is we write presentations. The first thing that speakers really need to understand is they're in the acting business, right? And so a professional actor doesn't write their own script, they go to a director so that we can pull out of them. So it's better to have somebody pull out of you to help build your presentation, because then you can manifest and create and have somebody pull it out of you. So what we do when we write a presentation, we don't start with the first slide. We start with the end in mind and work backwards.
So and that's the offer. And I've been through your training. So I attended a group hour day years ago for one of our businesses, and it works like a charm. It's like paying by the numbers. And we had a presentation that was converting at 10% on a webinar, which is great.
10%
right out of the gate. We didn't even tweak it. So I know it works because I've been through it.
And you've also seen thousands or hundreds of my clients around the world, because the thing that you own, you also own a business where you do a lot of events, so you get to see who has been Speaking Empire trained and who's not, and there's a difference.
There's a formula to it, so and it works. That's the whole thing. Is for the people I've seen that have been through your training, I can spot them on the stage because I can see exactly what they're doing with their hands, how they talk, and you can see that the results, the numbers, the people running to the back and buying from them is very consistent. So they always get table rushes and all that.
Well, I mean, what happened, and you know this, I'm speaking at lunch and at dinner, and what you said, even Dan Kennedy, that even if he's speaking every day, he's still practicing. Now, when I was a professional football trainer in sports, most people don't understand how competitive it is and how much athletes have to prepare. Like if we were playing a football game the next week, the football players would get a book about this big, playbook of the other team, and you would study your opponent. You would know what handed he was, where he went to college, how old he was, who he was married to, did he get in a fight with his wife this week, where was he at last night, what tendencies does he have, does he twitch, how does he move. So they study that much their opponent every week. And so, and not only do we study the opponent, we actually then, we do plays hundreds if not thousands of times, plays that we already know, so that way unconscious competent that the football athlete or the athlete can do it without thinking. I took the same thing into speaking. One is to study your opponent. So one of the big things that I teach my speakers is, number one, is you got to find out who your audience is, right? So anytime I speak around the world or whatever, the first thing that they need to do is ask the question, who's my audience?
That's right.
So if I'm always speaking, here's a little secret I do. I'll call the promoter and I'll ask them a couple questions, two of them being the key of your audience. I always say, what is the biggest challenge your audience is having?
That's good.
So I always ask that question, and then I always ask the next question.
Down,
yeah, that's a good one.
You always want to know your audience. So, and this is a perfect question. What is the challenge? People buy from pain. So, you know, that's good. And the second one?
The next two is, what does your audience need and want? Now, very important. People don't buy what they need; they buy what they want.
That's right.
So those two questions are: I figure out what do they need and what do they want, which could be two different things. So that way, when I'm making my presentation, I want everybody to write this down. I'm mirroring and matching my audience. You've got to be able to communicate effectively to the audience, especially if you speak overseas, because each different country, each different culture have different communication styles and abilities. So you need to know your audience is very important.
That's really cool. So those are awesome tips. And the whole knowing your audience and delivering what they want, or really selling what they want and delivering what they need, right?
Absolutely.
That's kind of how you do it. So for people that are stuck up on their, you know, we have a gadget or software or this and that, and they want to talk about that and selling that, they need to realize that, you know, you really need to sell them the meat and deliver the medicine, right, inside. So that's a really good point. And I think everybody should spend a little bit of time. I really challenge you to do that, like right now, and see if that's your messaging that you're delivering to your potential audiences, because it's really important.
And absolutely, you know, even Michael Jordan, the best athletes in the world have a coach and a coaching staff. And we do a lot of game film. We'll watch game film when I was a professional trainer. So a lot of people that are speaking have done two big mistakes. One, they haven't hired a coach, meaning they can only grow what they see inside their mind. They can't see their weaknesses. There's actually scotomas. They can't see what they're doing wrong. So having an outside professional coach like myself, or somebody who is an expert at body language, tonality, and understanding communication at a high level, can assist them to go to another level, just like an athlete. The next thing is not only as having a coach, look at that, it's to have somebody help you write your presentation, to pull out of you what it is, because people are so stuck and they don't even realize it. And so it's very important to have a coach.
That's really cool. So I know we could talk for 2 days on this thing, and I feel like that's where we're heading towards. So we basically segue to Speak an Empire. You already mentioned a lot of the stuff that you do. So how can people that really want to dive a little bit deeper into this and meet you in person and kind of maybe see the triangle and, you know, maybe come to one of your live events, how can they connect with you? Can we give them some sort of gift that would be useful and has some value that they can start a relationship with you and see if they want to take the next step?
Yeah, I think, let me answer that question. So Speaking Empire is a company that you know, I'm the founder of. I started the company about 10 years ago. And I want to talk about my why first. You know, what Speaking Empires to me is I wanted to create a space where thought leaders, authors, entrepreneurs could come together and collaborate, to share, and on one key goal, to make the world a better place.
That's great.
And so for me, what I envision is that Speaking Empire can assist entrepreneurs, people, to make the world a better place. So if you're listening to this, Speaking Empire is not for everybody. I'll tell you right away, I'm usually booked up for 6 months or a year to even work with anybody. So that being said, I get very specific of who we want to work with and serve. So to me, it all comes down to their intention. Are they wanting to deliver a message to empower people? Are they with authenticity, with integrity? And so for me, that's the most important thing for me. And if that's somebody of who you are, is you want to make the world a better place, you have a message inside of you that's a game changer, then Speaking Empire can assist you.
That's great.
And one of the big things that I can offer up to you is we have lots of tools and resources. We can help speakers get on the international circuit. We can help you get on the speaking circuit. I mean, we've got over 30,000 speakers and speaker companies in our Infusionsoft. So we're connected around the world. And we can help you become the most authentic, most amazing speaker on the planet. And so that's what we can do. One of the things that I can do to offer anybody is, typically they say the #1 fear on the planet is public speaking.
That's what we've been talking about.
And to me, I had that fear, and I found out a way to overcome that fear. And it's simple and it's easy. So if anybody is struggling with that fear, to me, there's no reason to have that feeling. I want you to be confident, powerful, and certain. So I have a program put together. It's called Confidence for Public Speaking.
Oh, cool.
And it's an amazing program. And we charge probably a couple $100 for that system. So if anybody has that fear, what I'm going to do for being on this show, we're here to serve. We're here to build value. I'll give any of your clients that program for free.
That's awesome. Cool. Thank you for doing that one.
And the other thing I want to offer up is, a lot of people are in the speaking business, and I have a slogan. They live to speak, they speak to live, not live to speak.
That's right.
And they might be speaking, but they don't know how to monetize their mission. And that's a big problem. So I have a program. It's our ebook. It's how to create a profitable speaking business. It's our speaking manifesto. So for anybody, we can give them that to get them in the right direction to help them. And then obviously we do events. We do trainings.
They're awesome.
We have an event. We have events coming up. So we have amazing trainings to work with people. And so if anybody's interested, you know, they can contact my office or opt in here, and we can talk to them. Also, if you really want to get your speaking business out to the world, speak on more stages, you're just not sure what to do, here's what I'll do. For anybody that's interested in that, you can opt in. I'll let you talk to one of my consultants on my team, so we can sit down and figure out what's their biggest challenge and help them. And again, we'll waive the fee on that. We'll do it absolutely for free for anybody.
That's awesome. So we'll post the links how to get engaged above the video, somewhere below the video. Thank you for doing that. And you do these events multiple times a year, East Coast, West Coast. So we'll just keep the link alive and put the upcoming event up there. So at whatever point in time you're watching this video, in the future, we'll just make sure that they can join us at one of the events. And I usually, you know, come to the events as well.
Absolutely.
So I've seen that event. I've been part of the AV team. I've been part of just attending at least 18, maybe 20 times now. And I always learn something new. And it's amazing event as a good starting point to kind of become the part of the Speaking Empire family.
Absolutely.
So it's
I think it's really easy. If you want to do speaking or you're speaking, you have to be at the Speaking Empire events.
That's the place
I mean,
to be.
it's period. Because you become who you surround yourself with. All the top speakers in the world are there. It's a place to network, to mastermind with the most successful speakers on planet Earth. And so I think it's the most incredible place to be. So if you haven't been to one of our trainings, it's literally criminal for yourself and your business to not be there.
I think some of my best friends that I have in my life right now go back to Speaking Empire. I met them at one of the events, and it's awesome. So just kind of to wrap it up, I have a couple of questions for you. So number one, tell me what kind of books you would recommend, or maybe 1 or 2 books that every entrepreneur should have on their bookshelf and maybe read more than once. What are your favorite books?
You know, I think
maybe give me one business and one non-business, because I know you're into spirituality and a lot of other things that people need in their life anyways. So let's not just focus on business. Let's tackle a couple different angles.
Yeah, I think the smartest person was ask a question: where will somebody be in 3 to 5 years? And she said, by 3 things: by the books that you read, the people you hang out with, and the trainings you take. So I literally took that from being in Detroit, Michigan. I read a book a week. And so not only did I read, I put it in my car and when I was in an airplane. So to me, I consumed many amount of books. And I think number one is figure out what is the biggest challenge in your business and then buy the book on that, okay? So I think get specific of what, because people, it's funny, people that buy health books, do you think they're in shape or do you think they're not in shape?
Yeah.
So the people that are already in shape are buying the health books. So sometimes people buy the books they're already good at. So sometimes look at what are you not good at that you really need to get.
Yeah. So that's a great advice on for them. What is your favorite book?
No, yeah, I agree. So it also depends where I'm at standing in life.
Sure.
In the beginning, my favorite books were How to Become a Millionaire, right? Because in my 30s, that was my dream, to make millions and become successful. So, you know, after I've done that and I found out, well, there's got to be more to life than this, right? So it depends where you're standing at. So from that point of view, if you're looking to just make that first million because you want to make it and you got to feel what it feels like, I think to me there's a couple books that I really love. One was by Chet Holmes, The Ultimate Sales Machine.
That's a great book, yeah.
I think that's a great book that all of you should read. I think that's a good one. I think obviously Think and Grow Rich.
That's,
You can't, I mean, that one there you should just master.
And we talked about that book a few times on this show already, and I always tell people read it more than once because every time you read it, you're going to hear something different. So that's a great recommendation.
Yeah, I think that's you can't go wrong with those two books. The Science of Getting Rich.
That's a great book.
You know, so that was another one.
It's an old one, but really
old school.
One.
So, you know, and what's interesting is I've read so many books by now. I could read the book and finish the sentences.
That's funny.
So
that's cool.
Those
and then maybe some non-business ones.
Non-business ones, I think to me, I think I like Power versus Force by David Hawkins. That book was very powerful for me. And then as I grew, any book by, now I only read books that are from truth masters, people that actually speak the truth, that vibrate at high frequency. So I read all of Yogananda's book because Yogananda was a truth teacher. So I'm reading right now the Bhagavad Gita right now. So I'm studying that book.
That's cool.
So to me, it's just where you're standing at.
Yeah, so I think that's a great advice that no one has really given on the show before, is really look at where you are and read the books that if you want to be better at sales, get some, you know, sales training from Zig Ziglar or somebody else, you know, marketing, whatever, mindset, like it's a great advice for sure. So now that's books. How about the people you surround yourself with? Again, maybe in the beginning stages when you were trying to make a bunch of money, what kind of mentors or people you were looking up to, and you know, what people are you following today?
Well, I think that's a great question, and here's what really saddens me. I see a lot of entrepreneurs that want to get success, Mira, and they invest in the wrong things at the wrong time.
Sure.
You know, it's really, it saddens me because I know they work so hard and they get taken advantage of. And so I think success loves sequence. So investing at the right time is very important. And also taking a look at your budget of how much you're going to put toward investment.
Sure.
So to me, I'm a big believer in masterminds and coaching. Me and my partner Dustin, we would take 20% of what we would make and we would reinvest it into ourselves and our business. So I think number one is if you're not in a mastermind, you've got to find a mastermind.
That's great.
And if you're the smartest person in a mastermind, you're in the wrong mastermind. So you need to find a good mastermind. And then number two is every year I always hire a coach in something that is one of our biggest weaknesses in our business. So find somebody who's already done it. That's the real deal. That comes with honesty and truth that will challenge you to get to the next level. So I think having that right coach, and for me, I go through a coach a year. So I always change to always improve to get better. So I think those are the two.
That's a great advice for the coaches, especially because, you know, even like look at Tiger Woods, he doesn't have one coach. He's got one coach for swing, one coach for mindset, one coach for, so you can have multiple people, multiple mentors, multiple coaches, right? And mastermind is definitely awesome because it's filled with people that could be your accountability partners and coaches on different levels. So thank you for that advice. And then last two questions. What is your big why? Why do you get up every morning and do what you do? Like, what drives you?
You know, my life has had many journeys, and why I do what I do is there's always been something inside of me. If I look backwards, my first career was I was treating patients, you know, getting my degree in sports medicine, being a therapist. So my first 8 years of my career, I made a mission that all of my patients would improve, would get better. So if they had knee surgery or back surgery or shoulder surgery or they had a stroke, I would do whatever I can to improve them. So there's always been this passion inside of me that the doctors would tell my patients they're never going to walk again, or athletes, you're never going to be able to get back on the football field again. I'd be like, we're not accepting that. So we're going to make it happen. And it's amazing when you get that mindset that no, we're going to walk again. We're going to get back on the football field again. That the mind is so powerful and the body is so powerful, and that. So to me, my big why is now I'm like a therapist for speakers and entrepreneurs. So for me, I love to inspire, to help people. So my whole big why is to empower leaders, to empower the world.
That's great.
And because to me, I believe Washington, politics is not going to fix our problems. I believe it's coaches, speakers, entrepreneurs that can make the shift. And so when I help one of my clients, it's the ripple effect. I know they're going to affect millions of people. So it's a big, it's a big why, and it's a big stance that I have to take. You know, I've been put in a situation so that I can help assist these leaders, and I'm very grateful and very honored to be in this situation. Very humble, by the way. I'm very, very humbled that I have the opportunity to work with the world's greatest. The greatest. So it's exciting. So I wake up every day, I play. So I'm very lucky.
That's awesome. And the last question, in your, we always tell people that success means different thing to different people, right? So in your personal definition of success, what is your definition of success?
Success, you know.
What does it mean to you?
Success is a growing thing. When I was young, success was, you know, winning games in sports. When I got in my 20s, success was, you know, how successful my business was, how big my house was, my car was, materialistic things. And then when I got into my 40s, then I started asking different questions. You know, what's the meaning of life? And so at this stage in my life, success is different. And to me, success is really is simplifying your life. It's success to me is spending time in meditation, spending time with your higher power. So to me, success is truly, to me, about learning selfless service. So when you really can step into the role of stop making the I in the ego and making it all about me, but then you start to surrender and serve, that's the ultimate success. So through my life, people always look up to athletes and other people. I never really had like any role models. The only role models that I really look up to is selfless people. People that serve selflessly, and it could be a janitor. It could be, you know, Mother Teresa. You know, it could be a saint. So to me, success is really connecting to that selfless in us. And that's awesome. Very powerful.
I love it. So, well, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome, my friend.
I always appreciate you. And for all of you watching today, just like always, you know, the key to success is implementation. If you just listen to this show and are not going to do anything with it, then it was just a total waste of time. Dave and I had fun, it was great, but for you to benefit from this information, you need to actually take action, implement something, take advantage of the resources that Dave offered you, and as always, wake up and be successful.